Hey guys, it's me LFR here, and sorry about not making any World of Warcraft related videos for around 2 or 3 months. The reason for this is because I've been super busy doing other things, like snowboarding, I don't know. But also, while I've been doing that, I've also leveled a Mage up to level 90, and I leveled this to 90 around 3 or 4 weeks ago now, I think. And I personally like the Frost Mage a lot, and it's a really fun and quite easy class to play. So I thought I'd just show you a little demonstration on how you can burst through this class and how you can make a burst macro, etc. So yeah, I think I got a pretty cool transmog, but that doesn't even matter. So the first thing I'm going to show you is talents for a Frost Mage. Now, I think that the talents, especially for a Frost Mage, are quite it's a lot of some of them you kind of have to have, but a lot of them are just kind of up to personal preference. So I'll just show you it now. Right, so obviously, the first one you want to have, if you're doing PvP at least, is Presence of Mind, because on Burst, this gives you a massive advantage, as you can just get a free Frostbolt or Frost Firebolt, or like any ability that has a cast time below 4 seconds. You can just get an instant ability off like that. So yeah, it has quite a long cooldown though, but it's definitely worth it, as you're not going to be bursting too often. So yeah, you should definitely be using Presence of Mind. And okay, for the second one, you want to use Ice Barrier, because it's just like the Priest Bubble. It's a nice, easy bubble with a short cooldown and a lot of absorb. And for the third one, you're going to want to use Ring of Frost, just for the extra CC. Now, it's very good to use Ring of Frost because it freezes your target. That means you can use the Shatter effect, which is a core, like a fundamental thing in Frost Mages. So it pretty much means that your Ice Lance ability will have like a much higher chance of critically striking, and it will, and also the damage of Ice Lance is quadrupled against frozen targets. So Ice Lance is pretty much like an instant, powerful, almost like 100% crit chance Frostbolt. So yeah, if your target is frozen, try to use Ice Lance rather than Frostbolt, because it is much better and it's an instant. And then for level 60, Cold Snap is the best. You don't really need Cortez or Greater Invisibility, because we already have a bubble which is defensive, and Greater Invisibility you probably only use at the beginning of an arena or battleground fight anyway, so you can just use the normal invisibility, which does pretty much the same thing, except it doesn't have the reduces damage taken thing, but that doesn't even last that long. So Cold Snap is very useful because it's a little bit of a last minute defensive and gives you 30% health and allows you to use Ice Block again, unless you have the Hypothermia debuff on. And okay, now probably the most personal talent here is the 5th talent here, the level 70 talent here. It's the Mage Bomb section, and as a Frost Mage, I go in between Living Bomb and Frost Bomb quite a lot. Now, Nether Tempest is very good for PvE, but it just doesn't like work as well as Living Bomb or Frost Bomb unless you're in PvE. So right now I've got Living Bomb on, but I think Frost Bomb is equal to it, if not better. But the reason Frost Bomb is good, Living Bomb is very good because Living Bomb is a dot, so it does 77,000 fire damage over 10 seconds. But the good thing about this is your Frost Firebolt has a certain amount of chance to proc Brain Freeze. So pretty much every time a target takes damage from a bomb, you have a chance of getting a Brain Freeze proc, and this gives you an instant Frost Firebolt, and also the target is under the effect as if it was frozen by the Frost Firebolt, so it has a higher chance of crit. So the good thing about Living Bomb is that you have a chance to get 3 or 4 instant Frost Firebolts off before the effect expires, and also for bursting, Living Bomb is very convenient because it has an instant cast. So yeah, I quite like Living Bomb, especially in arenas, but for most other things I like Frost Bomb because it does a very large amount of damage and it has a 100% chance of making your Brain Freeze proc. So that means you'll definitely get an instant Frost Firebolt, which will go nicely with all of your other bursts. So it's quite situational and personal. Some people like Living Bomb and some people like Frost Bomb. It also kind of depends on your glyphs, but I'll go through that later. And for the last talent, the 6th one, yeah, I quite like to use Invocation, because before an arena, just popping your Evocation will give you a 50% or 15% increased spell damage, and that is a massive difference. Like, trust me, it is a difference between the warrior against surviving his when he heals under 15% health and just killing him. So yeah, it's a very good thing. Basically, after you complete your invocation, like I'll show you here, you get a buff called Invoker's Energy, and it increases your spell damage by 15%. Just be careful not to go too crazy while using this effect. Actually, after I finish bursting, I like to turn this effect off just in case I run out of mana. But yeah, it increases your spell damage by 15% and it decreases your mana regeneration by 50%. So yeah, it's good for the burst, but probably worth turning it off after you finish bursting. And the other one that I like to use is Incanter's Ward, because it's pretty much like a small bubble, like a kind of like a ice barrier, but it also restores up to 18% of your maximum mana. And also, when this effect ends, you get the same amount of or up to the same amount of spell damage increase you get from invocation, but it is based on the absorption that you used. And it also passively increases your spell damage by 6% and increases mana regeneration by 65%. So yeah, it's a choice between Invocation and Incanter's Ward. The reason I sometimes use Invocation is because it is a definite chance that you will, there's a 100% chance that you're going to get that 50% increased spell damage. But in Incanter's Ward, it is not a 100% chance, although you will always have 6% increased damage. So, just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be using Invocation because it's easier to use. And I'm also going to switch to Frostbomb just to show you how it works. Alright, now let's go on to Glyphs. Now, Mage Glyphs are also quite personal, however, there are a few ones that you'll probably need. So, the first two that I use, so I'm using right here actually, I haven't bought the last ones, but I'll still tell you about them, are Glyph of Momentum and Glyph of Splitting Ice. The reason I use Splitting Ice is because, effectively, it hits another target, your Icicles and your Ice Lance, for 50% damage. So, what this means is that if you're in a 2v2 arena and both of your enemies are standing right in front of you, your Ice Lance will hit one of them for full damage and then hit the other one for 50% of what the other one hit. So if it was a crit, so say my Ice Lance hit 80k, the next target would also be hit for 40k, and this is amazing. It can pretty much get your other target down to like 70% or 60% health while you're bursting. So I definitely recommend using Glyph of Splitting Ice, whether you're doing a BG or an arena or whatever you're doing. And the next one you should probably get is Glyph of Momentum. Now the reason you should get Glyph of Momentum is because it means if you're strafing, you can blink and it will blink you sideways, like the direction you're strafing. And if you're going forwards, obviously the same effect would happen. You go forwards and backwards and whatever you want to do, rather than just a blink sending you straight forward in the way that you're facing. So this glyph blinks you in the way that you're moving rather than the way that you're facing. It's quite confusing, but you'll get used to it eventually. And the next glyph you should probably have is Glyph of Armors, because it just reduces the cast time of these things and increases the defensive effect of each armor by additional 10%. That's pretty good, but generally I like to keep my targets away from me before they even touch me in arenas, because your CC and burst can kill them pretty quickly. And the last one you should probably have is Glyph of Deep Freeze. Now, this is quite personal actually, because if you're trying to do combos, now this is amazing. Like for your initial burst, using Glyph of Deep Freeze is quite good. But the thing is, your global cooldown is shorter than 1 second. So, if the duration is reduced by 1 second, it's kind of counteracting itself. So, it's quite personal. If you like combos and you think your gear is good enough that you can kill someone before your Deep Freeze effect runs out, then that's fine. But if you don't think it's worth the lack of the global cooldown, then yeah, you should probably not use that one, because it's one of the glyphs that is counterproductive. Also, Glyph of Evocation is a very useful glyph because it heals you for 6% of your health during the invocation. But yeah, I haven't got it as of yet, but it is a very good thing if you're low on health and you only have you're the only person left in your arena. So yeah, they're the 4 glyphs you should consider having: Glyph of Splitting Ice, Glyph of Momentum, Glyph of Armors, and Glyph of Deep Freeze, and probably Glyph of Evocation. That was 5, sorry, I said 4. So yeah, that's glyphs and talents. Now I strongly recommend using these things because they are put like that to have maximum damage and minimum consequences for doing that damage, which is very good. And now we shall go on to the most essential part of a Frost Mage's burst, and that is the macro. Now the macro is generally very simple for a Frost Mage, and I'm just going to show you it quickly. So I am using a few things that are very good. So the first thing you want to type in your macro is /cast Icy Veins. Now ignore the first line, I'll tell you about that later. But what Icy Veins does is I'll just open up my ability bar and find it for you. Icy Veins. Here it is. Accelerates your spellcasting by, well, it grants you 20% spell haste and reduces the pushback, which is when you take damage, your spell bar will go back a tiny bit when you're casting. That's pushback, and it reduces that pushback so you can't be interrupted your spell casting by a warrior hitting you or taking an arrow from a hunter. And it also increases your haste by 20%, which is effectively a 20% spell speed casting increase. Now, Time Warp has a 30% increase, so using Icy Veins is quite similar to using Time Warp, and also they stack. So if you use Icy Veins and Time Warp, you'll have a 50% spell haste increase. But you can't do that in Arena, and it isn't wise to put a Time Warp in a burst macro, as you may need it in another time. For example, doing a boss in like Isle of Conquest. So don't put Time Warp in your burst, but always have Icy Veins in your burst, as it has a relatively short cooldown and has a very powerful effect and strong effect. So after you've had /cast Icy Veins, you'll want to do /cast Mirror Image. Now Mirror Image does a lot of damage. Basically it summons 3 copies of yourself that all cast Frostbolt at the enemy, and they all just do normal amount of damage with Frostbolt, but it does a lot of damage, as you can see. I'll just show you in a second. And also do /cast Frozen Orb. Now I don't really think that works, so I'm just going to take that out. You should always use Frozen Orb just by yourself, so yeah. Also, I don't think you need this item or the next item. I just had them in there for some reason. But always, if you're doing PvP, you should always have the trinkets. The proc trinket and the use trinket, so the dominance one and the badge and the insignia. You should always have those ones. And the reason you have the Grievous Gladiator's badge of dominance is because it has a /use effect, which increases your intellect, and you can control this via a macro. So in your macro you do /use and then your badge of dominance's name. So for this case I'm using /use Grievous Gladiator's badge of dominance. But if you want to quickly put it in there, just shift click on it and it'll put it in there rather than having to type the whole thing out. But you'll need these things. You'll definitely need your trinket to maximize the amount of damage you do in your burst. Also, if you have enough money, or if you do alchemy, then you could make a potion that will increase your intellect. I think it's of the falling leaf. Yeah, I think it's the potion or the flask of the falling leaf. But you can also put that in there with a /use macro. So /use flask of the falling leaf, whatever it is. But just put that in there, and your mana will also, your insights will also be increased by 1,000. But you can't use potions in arenas, so I don't really see the point in that. But the reason I have #show tooltip is because you should always put your longest cooldown ability on the top of your burst macro, because if you put #show tooltip above it, then if you place your macro into your spell bar, it will show the cooldown of your longest ability. So that will pretty much show you when your burst is finished its cooldown and is ready to use. Also, I recommend putting all of your other burst abilities on your action bar anyway, just so you can see the individual cooldowns of them. But you don't really need to, but I recommend it just in case you want to use any of those individual abilities on its own. Right then, now for the last part of the video, I'm going to be showing you what the sequence is for actually doing the burst. Sorry about that, someone's spamming me with Skype messages. What you basically want to do is you want to use your burst macro, of course, which I have set to Shift Q, and it will put all of your buffs up. Then you want to straight away start casting Frostbolt. Then you'll want to use your freeze ability that is from your water elemental. Actually, I might as well show you that quickly. If you go into your macro, you should always have a freeze /cast freeze macro, which is controlling your water elemental to do this. Basically, freeze freezes the enemy and gives you a proc of Ice Lance depending on how many enemies are frozen. And this proc of Ice Lance will give you a free Deep Freeze or free Ice Lance doing quadruple damage, which is very good. So yeah, after you've cast Frostbolt, then you'll want to cast Freeze. Then straight away after that, you'll want to cast Deep Freeze. Then you want to cast Frozen Orb. Then you want to use your Bomb, and then you want to spam Ice Lance until the enemy is low on health. and then you want to continue just doing Frostbolt, 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 Ice Lance, Ice Lance, Frostbolt, 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 and then whenever your Frostfire Bolt procs, you should use that as well. So I'm just going to quickly show you an example of doing this. So first I'll use my burst macro like this, then I'll cast Frostbolt, then I'll use this on them, then I'll do Deep Freeze, then I'll do that, then I'll do that, that. And as you can see, that does a lot of damage. And you should also be using your Ice Lance whenever it procs, like I'm doing. And use Frostbolt whenever you can. And as you can see, I'm doing a crap ton of damage right here, 125k DPS. Obviously, you won't be doing this much DPS in PvP situation, and I'm refreshing my Frostbomb here, because you have PvP resilience and the sorts of that kind of stuff, but as you can see, the amount of damage you do with that burst macro is pretty incredible. And now the best thing about it is the burst macro doesn't have a particularly long cooldown, and I'm still doing a lot of damage even without the my burst macro being activated. But yeah, that's just an example of how much burst damage a Frost Mage can do simply by using a few basic abilities that you have to kind of use. Anyway, that was me, LFR, and I will probably be doing a lot more videos later. Probably showing you some Mage features and maybe some Fire Mage stuff. But yeah, I just want to apologise for some of my lesser quality videos I uploaded a while ago. I'm aware that my Rogue Burst Guide is quite flawed now, especially because it's patch 5.4 and the video was made in patch 5.1. But yeah, I'll probably be redoing that and deleting the video, but yeah, sorry for uploading that content, guys. Anyway, I'll be seeing you guys later. Just please subscribe if you want to watch out for more content, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. Bye, guys. Bye.